Hi everyone. The terminology around ex-racing greyhounds can cause strong emotions to surface in some, and the use of the various words can be quite nuanced. So let's take a look at this delicate subject in the UK. If you're new to the world of ex-racing greyhounds, you can be forgiven for not being aware of the tensions around the way that the next step in their lives is referred to after they retire. If you're not confused yet, you probably will be soon, but I'll do my best to explain. Thinking first about homed, the Greyhound Trust, who homes some 3,500 greyhounds annually in the UK, is very clear about their terminology. They use the word homing rather than rescue or rehoming. And their focus is on finding the first home for dogs after they retire. And for this reason, people who have their dogs are referred to as homers rather than adopters. Now, this emphasis on first-time homes means that the Greyhound Trust branches generally accept dogs directly from trainers, usually under a scheme administered by the Greyhound Board of Great Britain, the GBGB, and they won't necessarily take dogs which have previously been in a home. Thinking about rehomed, then to complicate matters, the GBGB refers to their initial homing of ex-racers by trainers as rehoming rather than homing. And there are also greyhound-specific charities who are independent of the Greyhound Trust, which accept ex-racing dogs under the GBGB scheme. And I've put a web link below in the comments. There are also greyhound-specific charities independent of the Greyhound Trust which accept ex-racing dogs under the GBGB scheme. And I've put a web link below in the description of their various approved centres, and they may refer to them as either homings or rehomings, or even potentially rescues. It's commonly assumed that if you take on a dog that you must surrender them back to the charity that you got them from should that need arise. However, with the Greyhound Trust, this is not the case. It's not in their contract, and they may in fact refer you to an independent charity for support rather than taking the dog themselves. And this is because of their emphasis on first-time homes of dogs newly retired from racing. The independent charities may be more prepared to rehome your greyhound should the need arise, and indeed they may include a clause in their contract that asks you to contact them first if you can no longer keep the dog. So if this is important to you, it could influence which organisations you approach when you're thinking about getting a dog in the first place. And what about rescue? The word rescue is the one that can cause a lot of strong emotions to emerge. So in the context of ex-racing greyhounds, it really is quite contentious to refer to the dog as a rescue. Dogs are not seen as in need of rescue from their racing career, but rather in needing a home after they retire from the racing career. However, there are some sighthound charities out there which may indeed have greyhounds available for homing who truly are rescues. And they've taken in dogs who have been neglected, who've been abandoned, who've been relinquished by their subsequent owner, and also strays whose time is up at the dog pound. So they may often work with lurchers and other breeds of sighthound as well as greyhounds. Their work is dog rescue in its purest sense, saving and rehabilitating those who would not otherwise survive. So when do those lines become blurred? In Floppy's case, he was accepted into the ownership of the Greyhound Trust directly from his trainer, so technically he's not a rescue. But if we look at his situation, spending over 11 months in kennels, mixed breed kennels, with increasing stress, becoming more and more frantic, in poor condition with no bedding, this was far from an ideal situation, even though technically he was awaiting a home. Both his physical and mental state were suffering in the meantime, and the management of the branch did not want to put a stop to this. At the risk of being controversial, to me, this crossed a line. It cut through the semantics, and not all dogs do well in kennels, Just because they're born into racing doesn't mean that they're going to enjoy being in a kennel environment. And here we have a dog who couldn't cope, who was becoming gradually worse day by day, and his chances of finding a home were getting smaller because of the environment he was in. Getting him out of there was complicated, and that's a story for another video. But I did it. And as far as I'm concerned, his downward spiral made him a rescue, regardless of his background and regardless of the basis of his ownership. I've had a whole series of greyhounds in my life, and Floppy is not the first one that I consider to be a rescue, and he may not be the last either. He's one of those I couldn't stand by in silence and watch. So whatever the troubles we face, whatever sacrifices we need to make, we will do this because he needs us, and he needed to be rescued. So that's all for today from Floppy and me. We'll be back again soon with more updates for you. Bye for now. Look out for new videos every Monday, and why not subscribe so you don't miss out?